Well, good morning. Welcome back. I just picked up a new design file off the internet yesterday, and I'm dying to do a little bit of a test run today. It's the first interchangeable file I've worked with, so I thought you might want to hang out with me today on LaserNeck. This file that I purchased, I got it off of that laser dude, off of his website. There's a few sites that I found have really great high quality digital design files, and he's one of them. I think his name is Daryl. What he's released recently is a welcome sign. It's called an interchangeable welcome sign. It has components or pieces that you can slide in and out. In fact, I think he's got one set for every season. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a test file because I've never used these interchangeable designs. And if it works out nice, I'll just take it up to the cottage and I'll put it up in the main room or the main hallway. Let's take a look. What I like about his files is he always sends you two files, or usually they always have two sets of files. They have a regular version and then they have an assembled version. And that assembled version is for folks that maybe have a smaller workbed area, so you can actually piece it together, so to speak. He also provides a number of different file extensions: SVG, AI, PDF, DXF. For Lightburn, I always like to use the AI file. I'm not sure if it's better than an SVG, but I think it is. So we'll open that up, and as you can see, it opens up pretty large. Like any other file, as I mentioned before you start ungrouping it, you want to take a look at the size of it, and you can see up here it's 40 inches. That's going to be too big for me, especially for a first test project. So I'm going to just drop that down to maybe 36. You want to make sure, especially when you have pieces like this, that you don't separate them and then try to change the sizes of any one piece. You want to try to maintain that aspect ratio, or your pieces are not going to fit together afterwards. So for me, usually the first thing I do is I see we've got a backer here. I've also got a plate here where I believe the tabs are going to slide into, a face plate, the welcome, and then here's a number of inserts. There's two or a set for each season. So what I want to do is figure out how big my sign is. So this is when now I'm going to ungroup. And I'm not going to touch anything. I just need the size of this backer. And right now it's at 14.5 inches. That's way too big, especially for my bed size, let alone just for a first run. So I'm going to regroup everything. And I'm going to drop this down again. Because remember, we want everything to shrink in size relative to each other, or maintain the aspect ratio, I guess is the best way that you can say it. Let's go with 28. And again, I'm just going to grab this, and this is now 11.5 inches. That's not bad. So we're not going to work to try to maximize our space or our sizes relative to the size of our material, because this is just a test run. So let's do the 11.5. That'll fit in my bed, and it'll give me a good size so I can take a look at it. So you'll see here, all of these files are cut files. Now I could change them, I could perhaps take pieces, and that's one thing I like about his files is he does an excellent job of detail. So you can grab any of these pieces and you can literally almost pull every single part of it apart from the other, as opposed to some other digital files that I picked up where, you know, you've got one vector or one layer. Daryl always has a ton of layers, so you can play with the design, change the design, maybe engrave somewhere where he might have suggested you cut, so you can add your own bit of creativity. In this case, we're just going to cut these out, and we're going to follow the cut. Looks here, I have a score line on this backer, so I'm going to maintain that. And we're going to grab some colors. I'm going to get some settings for my TruFlat here. So we're using black for the cut, which is usually red for me, but we'll stick with black. I'm going to come down to my materials library. I'm going to find my TruFlat, and we are going to grab my cut file here. And we're going to do this guy here. I'm going to assign that to my layer. And I need a score, so I'm going to grab, I'm using red for score. I should have a score setting in here. I believe it's this one. Yep, that's the one there. And we'll assign that to our red layer. And other than that, we're just going to fire up the laser here. I'm going to connect it. And I'm going to grab some TruFlat. So I've got a sheet of dual tight, because I think we're going to need to stick some of this stuff together. I'm not going to need the TruFlat paint because we're not going to paint today. We are going to use white, and I think I'm going to use that maybe for the letters or for the faceplate. I'll probably use walnut for some of the outline. I'm going to use maple to do the cuts for those inserts because I think that'll give it a nice contrast. And I may use some black in there. We'll take a peek at the pieces. So we're going to cut our backer first. So I'm just going to group these together. And I'm going to need to move this stuff around. I just want to make sure everything is grouped. So I need to get that backer into the work bed or it's not going to cut. I think we're all grouped, yes. And let's just grab these guys and move them over here. Grab my welcome, move it here. Whoops, this is why you got to check for grouping. There we go. There's always one straggler. Let me group that so I don't lose it. Okay, and we'll grab our backer and let's put it in here. There we go. We're good. We'll take a look. Yep, it's a cut file and it's got a score. Good. Should be a quick one. We're going to cut first. Actually, I think we'll come up here and we're going to score first before we cut. So let's pop that up, make that the first move. I'm going to put my user origin in the top left. That's where I like it. And we're good to go. Send it to the bolt. Just going to square that up to my rulers. We're in good shape here, I think. And we're going to use the walnut for the backer. Let me just autofocus. Should be good. And let's just sneak it up into the corner a little bit. Oops. There we go. I'm going to set my origin. Let's frame it. Looks good. Geez, that's cutting her close. Okay. And let's run our job. One of the nice things with this TruFlat is it just cleans up with water. Quick cleanup, and then we can get on to the next piece. Okay, backer is complete. So with the backer complete, I'm going to move him out of the work bed, and I'm going to do our next piece, which I think is our hinge piece where the tab kind of slides into. I haven't picked the color yet, but I'm definitely going to need some dual tight on the back of this piece as well as this piece here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the faceplate black. So I'm just going to use black for this intermediate piece or this piece in behind. And I think based on the size I chose, I should be able to get these both on the same sheet. So I think we're going to squeeze that in a little tighter. That might work better. You see what we've got for size on this? Yep, 17 and 10. That'll work. Okay, let's send it. Let me grab these guys, get them out of the workspace. I'm going to do my welcome now. And I think I'm going to do this in white. And I think if it'll fit, I want to try to minimize waste here. So we're just going to sneak that up here. That should work right in the corner. Because it's white, you'll see I only want the letters, but I'm going to keep the backer because it's going to help me space it after I start to put them together. And we're going to need a little dual tight on this. So I know we are about 3 inches in width and right across the board. So that's what we'll put in there, about 4 inches. And I've already just rearranged and sent the last engraves to the bolt. This is the seasonal inserts. It'll be interesting to see how they fit together after we assemble it, especially based on whatever kerf adjustment he might have made in the file, because different lasers or different laser heads, of course, produce different kerf. So it'll be interesting to see how snugly they fit together. I'm going to set my origin. Let's do this. Okay. And I was able to get them all on the one sheet. And although I don't have to mask it, because there's such tiny, small cut lines in various of these different designs, I just decided it's easier to throw some paper mask on there. That way I don't have to be gentle when I'm wiping or cleaning with the water and the rag. It's just much simpler. So hey, while we're waiting for our little segments, our seasonal segments to cut out, I just wanted to show you how I believe this goes together. You have a score mark in your backer, and you're going to have this first spacer, I guess I'll call it. That's going to sit here and line up, and we've put dual tight on the back, so we'll stick her down. And then you've got, I guess, what I'd call a faceplate, which is going to go over top. And your segments are going to sneak in underneath these little openings, and there are tabs that should fit in here, assuming that the kerf adjustment is correct. Depending on the type of laser you have, including myself, I may have to adjust the kerf on these cuts or on the other cuts to make sure they fit in, but we'll find out when we fit this or when we dry fit it. And then of course your welcome is going to go here on top. I'm using the cutout as a bit of a template so I can make sure all of my letters are spaced out, and then I'll remove the template and just have the letters. One thing I do want to do right now is, given that I'm going to be sliding these tabs in on the back, I need to use my X-Acto knife and I need to cut out the dual tight out of these areas on both the top and the bottom, because I don't want sticky adhesive here where I'm going to be sliding my segments, which are supposed to be removable. So we'll do that now while we're waiting. If you haven't done this before, the adhesive, just with the grit, I guess, or the dryness of your finger, you should be able to just peel the adhesive up off of the backer or off of the back plate, and it'll roll right up, as you can see here. I've taken the top off, but you just roll it off with your finger, and that removes it altogether. Let's take that, check it. Yeah, and now I have no adhesive where those tabs are going to go. Excellent. I really appreciate that he had the detail to put in a score line here so you know exactly where your spacer is going to sit. So let's get things put together. And these are symmetrical, so they'll fit whether you put it this way or you flip it around. All the pieces are symmetrical. Let's see if I can line up my score lines. Excellent. Perfect fit. Just apply some pressure for a little bit. Okay, let's put it on our faceplate. Again, it's symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which way you put it on, it should fit properly. Oh, nice. That's beautiful. Excellent. Yep, perfect. Apply some pressure. Okay, let's get our letters on. I'm going to take my template, throw it over. Notice I don't take the glue off the back because it's not going to be staying. But I do like using clamps to make sure I've got it exactly in place before I place my letters. Good. Excellent. Okay, see if we can get this up. There we go. Oh, that's what I love about TruFlat. little bit of water and a rag. She cleans up so nice. So that was pretty severe scorch marks there I got. So this, I think, was definitely a mistake. I don't know why I masked this. It's TruFlat. It cleans up with water. But for some reason I masked it, which means I'm going to have to pick all this out. So I think I'll be a few minutes. A lot of little pieces here. One thing I like about Daryl's files, I believe that's his name, at that laser dude, is that you'll see everything is a vector or a layer for him. So you can literally, what I was thinking is pulling these out or changing it to engrave layers and leaving them totally full instead of the cutouts that they are. But hey, that's something we can try. Same thing with the font on the word welcome. If I wanted a fancier font or something different, you can change the fonts, you can move things around. His files are very, very detailed. So that's actually a really cool idea with these integrated or interchangeable pieces. It worked out really nice. Take a look. I think this is probably your spring or your summer set, but you simply take them, slide it in underneath. Once it drops down, you'll see the tab drops into there, and then you just slide it into place. And you do the same thing with the bottom part. Slides in underneath. Tab fits in. I was a little worried about the kerf. Kerf was fine. It fits nice and snug, as you can see here. Not a lot of room for me to play, but I can push it in. And it sits. It doesn't wobble. It doesn't fall out. So that's pretty cool. There you go. And you've got a set for each season. A couple of mistakes I made, though. The one is I didn't actually have to mask this because, as you know, I used TruFlat today and it cleans up with water. It's just when you've got such tiny, tiny little detailed thin cut lines, that makes your material a little weaker, and I tend to be a little rough when I'm cleaning my materials, so I always find it's just easier for me to mask it. There's no big deal. I didn't have to pick it out. It just peeled right off, to be honest. But the big mistake I made, you'll recall on the insert, I took out that little chunk of adhesive where the tabs for these inserts sit. What I forgot to do is I forgot to remove the adhesive from the half of the semicircles on the bottom and the top where these pieces slide in. So it took a few minutes, a little bit of alcohol and a Q-tip got or dissolved the adhesive so I can get them in and out, but they're still a little tight right now. Otherwise, I like the concept or the idea of this type of sign. I think in marketing you call this an evergreen product because as long as he keeps creating different inserts or different styles or designs, once your customers purchase the sign itself, you can just follow up with follow-up sales to sell him more inserts or her more inserts. Kind of a really nice idea. The other thing I like about his files, as I mentioned earlier, they're super detailed. You can virtually pull everything off into its own layer just about. So I think that gives me the opportunity to maybe play with the file a little more, maybe change some of the cut lines to engraves so I can get larger surface area. And that would allow me to, say, use the TruFlat paint and paint some of those inserts. Or I can use other different types of materials for them. The key is you just have to be careful and make sure that your thickness is matched or below the thickness of that insert so that you can get it inside and underneath. Other than that, kerf was great. Had no issues. Turned out really nice. Kind of basic colors, but even as far as the font, you can change welcome into a different font or put a different message on there. Good stuff. I hope you enjoyed it today. Thanks so much for sticking around. Have a wonderful week with your families, and please be kind to each other. I'll see you again. I'm Gord Potter, and you've been watching LaserNug. Cheers.